Welcome back to the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast. I'm Dale Corpus, the Senior Transition Specialist and real estate expert, and I help families navigate the often overwhelming process of selling a senior's home while transitioning them into the right living environment. One of the biggest challenges families face is deciding whether home care is the right fit for their aging loved ones. But how do you know when it's time? And what do families not know about home care that they should? That's why I'm excited to have Jay Mehta today with me. Jay is the owner and president of Assisting Hands, a home care agency, and he's here to share what families need to know when making this decision. We will be talking about one, how to decide if home care is the right choice. Two, common misconceptions about home care and what families get wrong. Three, the emotional and psychological impact of bringing in a caregiver. Four, challenges in the home care industry and how to improve it. And five, how families can work better with caregivers for success. If you or a loved one is considering home care, this episode will give you the expert knowledge you need to make the best decision. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast, where we help families navigate senior living, real estate, and everything in between. Hosted by Senior Transition Specialist Dale Corpus, this show brings you expert insights, real solutions, and stress-free strategies to make senior transitions simple. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
Okay, and we are back. Hey, Jay, how's it going? How are you?
Good morning, Dale. How are you doing? I'm doing good.
Good. I'm good. Can you start by sharing what led you into the home care industry?
Sure. So first of all, just thank you for having me on your podcast. I think what you're doing is really awesome, and getting the word out there is extremely important in this particular industry. My story, I've been in the Bay Area for almost 28 years, spent some time in the corporate world for quite a while. And then, owned some businesses along the way as well. And I always knew that I wanted to do something with purpose. And so about 3 years ago, I embarked on, my journey today in home care. And the reason I got into home care was my father. He was this for 3 years, and, we went through the experience of getting caregiver for him. And I truly believe that, having a caregiver really helped him lead a, independent life and a fulfilling life those 3 years while he was in hospice. And, commonly in the hospice, when you talk about 3 years, it's unusual for somebody to be in hospice for that long. But I think a lot of that credit goes to, receiving a really good in-home care in that time.
Got it. And I know that when we chatted before, when I first met you in person, didn't you come from a tech background and then you even transitioned into the senior living industry? Is that right?
Yes. So, over the 26, 27 years that I was in corporate, I was in tech and worked in different types of capacities. And, of course, got my engineering degree out of college, my bachelor's and master's. Along the way, I owned some businesses as well, but they were in the product in the retail segment, not in the services segment. And during that experience of, having been in small and large organizations and leading different types of teams, and, having that, business experience as well, what I realized was that, I wanted to obviously do something on my own eventually. And be in an industry where it's very fulfilling, where you feel like you've helped others along the way. Started in tech and now bought into the home care space.
Perfect. Now, for your Assisting Hands, your home care agency, what's your geographic territory in the Bay Area?
Yeah, so we are quite, unique in a lot of different aspects. For one thing, we have 3 offices out here in the Bay Area, and we, each of the offices serve a pretty large territory. My territory is kind of focused out here in the East Bay, primarily. We serve clients pretty much throughout Alameda County. And Dale, my position in this, with Assisting Hands is a little bit unique, and let me explain what I mean by that is, not only am I owning a franchise of my own and operating that, but I'm what they call an area developer or area representative as well. And so part of what I do is also coach and mentor other franchisees, assisting hands franchisees, and help them grow and scale their operations. And so the two offices, we have an office out in San Mateo and we have another office out in Danville. And I work close hand in hand with those owners in making sure that they have any questions. I'm there to assist and of course help them, with the growth and scaling that they're going through. And it's part of, that, overall, I would say, responsibility. One of the other things I do is I'm looking to, attract new owners, people that are passionate about it, home care industry, want to do something on their own versus being in a, corporate career, and are, really aligned to the values of assisting hands. And so, if they are interested in, starting something, that's how I kind of get involved and help them, lead them through the process, so to speak.
Okay, awesome. Um, Many families struggle with the decision to bring in a caregiver. What signs indicate that home care is the right choice?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll kind of reflect back on my personal experience. When my dad was in hospice, my sisters and myself, we all worked full-time jobs. My mom at that time was 80 years old, and so she could not do a lot of things around the house and assist my dad. And
Mhm.
so, commonly what you find in the industry is sometimes, parent or loved one has, kids around, but they're all pretty busy, with work and other obligations. They may have families of their own, etc., and not able to take care of their parent. And so that's one area where home care comes in. The other area, is I see a lot of, seniors in the community that are quite lonely and alone and don't
Mhm.
have any family around, don't have, people there to support them and help them out when it comes to home care services. So that's where we also come into the picture. Um, the third area where we get involved is, when a loved one is, making a transition from a hospital or skilled nursing facility or rehab back home. And they need assistance. They may have, the ability to have family members care for them, but they still need somebody that's skilled and able to kind of take care of the activities of daily living, like we call it, as they're transitioning back home and recovering.
Got it. Are there any situations where home care might not be the best option? I mean, maybe assisted living or skilled nursing facility might be better?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Dale. So a lot of times when there's higher level of care needed,
Mhm.
whereas, for example, there's need for medical care, and that's more regular and frequently required.
Mhm.
That's one example of where somebody would benefit from being in an assisted living or in a skilled nursing home, for instance,
Yep.
versus being at home. The other areas where somebody might have dementia or Alzheimer's, and as we all
Mhm.
know, that's a progressive disease. But when it gets to a really advanced stage, they may need the skills and the ability of a memory care community to be able to thrive and be able to have a good long life there. So that would be another area where it would be better for that individual to be in a community like that. Typically, the type of clientele that we work with want to stay as independent as they can at home. They enjoy being in their beautiful homes, have the ability to have family come in and out, and they might just love the community that they live in as well, and they want to continue living there. So that's what we try to do. We focus on making sure and allowing them to be able to stay independently at home. And what we try to do also is we try to encourage our clients to be independent versus being completely dependent on the caregiver to live, from one day to the next.
Okay. Okay. What are the biggest fears or hesitations families have when considering home care, and how do you address them?
Yeah, so common fears are, having a stranger in their home, right? Like
Mm,
commonly, a family for the first time, being introduced to the concept of home care may not be comfortable with having someone they don't know in their home. And so that's one fear. And we try to allay those fears, right? We try to work with the client and their family. And, yeah, the first, experience or first shift may not be as comfortable as they want it to be. But what we generally found out is after a few shifts where they've had that interaction with their caregiver, they get comfortable to the point where they build a relationship and friendship, right, with the caregiver. So that's one example of a fear. The other fear is they a lot of clients feel like they're going to lose that independence that I was mentioning earlier. And, again, when we work on creating a care plan for our clients, we also want them to partake in those activities of daily living. So if somebody's able and somewhat independent, we will have the caregiver do fold laundry together with the client or go for walks together, socialize, play card games, things like that. If they're cooking, they'll participate with the client in cutting up the vegetables, for example, or working through a recipe together, right? Things like that.
right, right. Let's pivot a little bit on our questions, and I want to talk about what families don't know about home care but should. My first question in this area is, what are the biggest misconceptions families have about home care?
Well, number one is there's what I commonly run into is families or clients not understanding the difference between, say, home health and home care, for
Mm,
instance.
yeah.
Right, that's one common misconception I run into. Home health, as you know, Dale, is more focused on medical care. Where you have skilled professionals such as PTs, OTs, nurses assisting. Home care, we focus on non-medical home care. So, when I talked about activities of daily living, somebody needing help with bathing, grooming, dressing, ambulation, transfers, etc., right? With exercises, things like so that's one big misconception I run into. The other thing that I run into also is that, we're a very connected fabric in the home care industry, like yourself and others in this area, we all weave this fabric where we're providing end-to-end care for seniors. And
Mhm.
one of those misconceptions I run into is the difference between, say, like boarding care. So a lot of
Yeah.
people, will approach us and say, "Hey, I'm looking for, a community to live in." And
Right.
we kind of go through the education process, tell them what we do versus, what the communities may offer, etc. So that's another thing. Um, the third misconception that I run into is that, even though we do focus on non-medical home care, our caregivers are trained and skilled professionals at the end of the day. We have a very high bar in terms of who we hire and onboard. And so, it's just not people that have worked in non-affiliated industries and decided to become a caregiver one day that we decide to employ. These are, people
Okay.
that have done home care for many years. And so we have to kind of explain to a lot of, potential clients, what we bring as part of our services and the experience and skill set of our employees that will be one day taking care of their loved one or themselves.
Got it. What's the most common mistake families make when choosing a home care agency?
Well, not doing enough due diligence, I would say, is the
Okay.
number one. And what I mean by that is not only reaching out to a home care company, but understanding who they are and what they do, and beyond the credentialing, right? Beyond the licensing, beyond the what they do in terms of hiring, high quality caregivers, things like that. That's one area where I see potential for clients or prospective clients to look at. And so I spend a lot of time educating prospective clients or their loved ones in terms of what to look out for. Um, the other thing that I kind of run into, and like I'll give you an example, right? Just based on my personal experience with my dad, is of course we looked at a lot of different agencies that were around, and there it is a crowded field. I won't deny that, but bar for differentiation in this area is pretty low. And so what I quickly found out through my own personal experience was that it was not only about engaging with the reputable company, but also about the experience and what in terms of what they brought to the table. Things like, for example, consistency, reliability, the level of care being provided, the
Mhm.
amount of I would say connection that the client or their family have with the office, because that tends to be
Mm.
kind of the central point in terms of not only making sure that the client's feedback and experience is good, but also making sure that any type of information feedback that we're providing to caregivers, and also learning from them in terms of what's going on in the field with our clients.
How does long-term care insurance work with home care? And what should families know before relying on it?
Yeah. So, I'll take a step back here before I answer that question. So as an agency, we we work with three different care sources. First is obviously people
Yeah,
that pay out of pocket. Second
right.
is we're VA approved with the Veterans Administration. So we serve a lot of veterans in the community, and we do a lot of education seminars for veterans, in terms of the benefits that that they should be looking at and should be investigating. And then to your question, the third area is long-term care insurance. And we work with a lot of different long-term care insurance companies out there. And, the thing that people don't seem to understand, or may have not had a chance to really look into, is every long-term care insurance company is very different in terms of their policies and what are
Mm.
the coverages that they include or exclude. Number two is, even within, just say, for example, you and I had long-term care insurance insurance from the same company. The
Yeah,
policies that that particular company may be offering different clientele are very,
yeah.
and so, I always encourage, people that do have long-term care insurance is, read your policy, because every policy is very different in terms of what they cover or may not cover. And I'll give you specific examples, right? So beyond just, overall coverage in terms of dollar figure, like, hey, this is the lifetime value of your policy and this is how much is available for you to use. There's something
Right.
called daily maximums, right? And this is
Mm.
the maximum that long-term care insurance will cover in a specific day of service. The other area that I've also seen people that don't tend to understand very clearly is there's something called a deductible period or elimination period. And after you do actually qualify for disbursement of that long-term care policy that you have, there is a period of time that one has to go through in terms of spending out of pocket before the long-term care insurance kicks in. So these are just some examples of what I see out there as I work with different families that have long-term care, and we do go out and provide seminars and education type of uh, you know uh, venues where people can learn about what to look out for long-term care. And I've done this quite a bit in different communities.
Yeah, perfect. I want to segue into the emotional and psychological impact of home care. Um, how does bringing in a caregiver affect seniors emotionally? And what reactions have you seen?
Generally, I would say it's very positive.
Okay.
Initially, after getting beyond that initial reluctance of having somebody that they don't know in their home, and it usually just lasts maybe the first day, the first shift.
Okay.
But after that, what I've seen is a very positive experience. I've seen clients build a strong relationship, a sort of a friendship, if you want to call it that, they'll, go out and, socialize with the caregiver as they go out for walks or go out to, like, do different types of activities together, to the point where they've become part of their family. And
Yeah.
one of the things that we do emphasize that, beyond just the activities of daily living is companionship. And what we found, and there's studies out there that, show this is, socialization and companionship is extremely important in when it comes to longevity. And, a lot of the seniors that are at home alone, we try to make sure that the caregiver is interacting with them, socializing with them, doing activities, hobbies. If they want to go out into the garden and, you water some plants or plant as well, that they're doing that with their caregivers. So that part is extremely important. And we've seen huge dividends, especially with the clients.
Okay. How does home care impact family dynamics? Are there challenges when multiple family members are involved in decision making?
Definitely. I would say, one of the things that we look into is that who's the key decision maker if it's not the client themselves, right?
Yep.
And whether it's a son, daughter, or, a friend, etc., we try to understand who that person is. And of course, that's important for us to know when it comes to like an emergency contact too. The other thing that we try to look at is also who, has the power of attorney different situations, whether it's a regular power of attorney or a durable power of attorney, especially if there's cognitive impairment involved. So that's another thing we look into. And so, lo and behold, we kind of, we haven't had any, bad experiences working with different family members. We've generally been in environments where they, been cooperating with each other in terms of, seeking the best care for their family member or their loved one. I would say in a lot of cases with the families that we work with, we've generally seen that, if there's multiple kids involved, that they all want the best for their care or grand.
Right.
Right. And so they may have certain instructions for us. And what we'll do is we'll collect all the inputs from the different family members, collate it, put it together and, share with everybody and say, look, hey, is this the care plan? Is this the preference that you want for, your parent? And generally speaking, that goes, a long way because we get a, good experience overall and everyone's desires are met for the most part.
Got it. What can families do to make the transition to home care easier for their loved one?
Education, I would say, is number one. You're being educated about what to expect. And, reaching out to professionals like myself or you or others in the industry as well to kind of get prepared for that, right? A lot of
Right.
times what I found is that home care ends up becoming like a last minute type of, option or decision. Like, oh my gosh, I need something today. Is my parent
Right.
in that situation, or I myself need that care. And we will definitely work on enabling that, but a lot of times it's important for people to get educated in terms of what to expect, and to leverage the knowledge and information that's out there, whether it's working with people like yourself or me, or going on the internet and learning a little bit more about what to expect and what are the stages. So with that, I would say education is the most important.
Perfect. Have you seen situations where home care improved a senior's quality of life beyond just physical care? Any examples of that?
Oh yeah. So, without getting into names here, obviously, because I can't. Yeah, absolutely. Client of ours out here in the East Bay, and gentleman, extremely introverted.
Okay.
Of course, we got involved because he was getting discharged from rehab and coming back home, but not very social. Kind of keep to himself, not really share what is, even when it came to pain management, he kept
Oh,
it to
okay.
himself. And even his wife would complain that, he doesn't share much with her. So, um, But what ended up happening is we knew that he was introverted. We then went to obviously pair him up with a caregiver that was extremely extroverted and, out
Right.
there. Right? So just understanding the personality type, we paired him with the caregiver, one of our really good caregivers who obviously beyond the personal care side of things was extremely could read the room. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Read the room
Right.
really well. And what we found out in a matter of weeks, like I would go and check in on him every now and then, see how he was doing, like I do with other clients of ours. And within a matter of weeks, this person who was very introverted, kept to himself, never really even spoke to his wife, was out there joking, laughing with our caregiver. And, created this bond. And even I saw that spilling over to the rest of his family as well, including his wife. And so that was a very heartwarming type of experience when we go through. And when I see these kind of case studies or case examples, yeah, it just makes me feel even more, proud of what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that's not a one-off. You see these types of stories all the time, right?
Yes, all the
Yeah, that's
time.
amazing.
It's very
Yeah, that's amazing.
encouraging. Yes, yes, and it's wonderful to see those kind of experiences because at the end of the day, your state of mind, impacts your physical condition too. And so obviously
Yeah.
having a positive state of mind, being happy or at least content, makes a big difference in these kind of scenarios.
Okay, got it. I want to switch topics again. Let's talk about the challenges in the home care industry and how to improve them. What are the biggest challenges facing the home care industry right now?
Well, unsurprisingly, labor.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
you know, and I would like to qualify that by saying that
Okay.
it's not a numbers issue. If we opened up the gates, we could hire anybody and everybody out there.
Yeah.
It's not a numbers issue for us. It's the quality, more than the
Got
quantity.
it.
So, when it comes to hiring for us, not only are we looking for people that had the experience, the skill set, the certifications, but beyond that, we're also looking to make sure that their values line up with our company. Mhm.
Okay.
And they're aligned to our cause and they're compassionate and empathetic, and interested in doing what they do on a daily basis because they feel
Mhm.
like helping seniors out. They feel like helping out, people in general. And so
Mhm.
that's where the challenge is. It's the quality, not the quantity. So that, if you want to think of it as a funnel, right? The top of the funnel is very high. But who we decide to employ and select from that pool of candidates is very small. That's how we're able to keep our, quality bar so high.
How has caregiver hiring and retention changed in the recent years?
I would say the pandemic was a huge change,
Mm.
when it came to retention of caregivers
Mhm.
and hiring as well. Of course, the labor market really changed during the pandemic, and there were some shortfalls and shortages overall, whether it was home care or other industries.
Yeah.
But
Right.
also nutrition too, right? Because just keep in mind that as a home care company, a lot of our employees are remote. They don't sit in the
Okay.
office. They don't interact with me, for instance, on a daily
Right.
basis, minute by minute basis. So for us, it's extremely important that they don't feel isolated when they're out there with clients and they're, helping people. And
Right.
that's, how we, communication is extremely important. That's how we keep in touch with. We want to make sure that they're doing good. Everyone has different challenges in life, whether personal or family. So we want to make sure that they feel like they're heard and there's somebody that cares about them. That is extremely important. And of course, benefits matter, right? And
Mm.
and we want to make sure that they feel that they are receiving really good competitive benefits. Because the service that they're doing out there and helping clients with is extremely admirable. It's something that I appreciate a lot as a CEO. And hey, right, for me, there's nothing better than servant leadership. When you're out there, you're working with the team hand in hand and helping them out. And so when it comes to going and meeting with different clients, I also go out and meet with caregivers too, check in on them, see how they're doing, and ask what they need. How can I help them in the process?
Got it. What are the biggest regulatory hurdles home care agencies face?
Um, Great question. So we live in a world where those regulations are always changing.
Yeah.
And every year with new legislation that comes out, etc. We're faced with not only learning about them but also adapting to them. Sorry, and adopting as well. So for example, like speaking of veterans benefits, for instance, right? The Elizabeth Dole Act passed, earlier this year. And, now with the new administration, there's going to be some changes coming along that way. So, we're on the lookout to see how that may impact our veterans that we're serving when it comes to benefits, as an example. California legislature is always changing, not only labor laws, but also, laws affecting home care organizations like ourselves. So we stay very close in touch with California Department of Social Services, understanding what new regulations that may be coming out, etc. They're passed, and we do everything possible to make sure that we're up to speed on those regulations. It also comes back down to education, like it's over here.
Yep.
Making sure that not only us in the office are educated, but also our caregivers in the field are educated as well in terms of any changes that may be coming out.
Got it. How do you think home care can be improved overall?
Well, it's like I said, it's one way where we can do a better job or at least improve is, like I said, a very connected fabric, right? We have different parts of the senior care industry that we serve, and a lot of clients and their families are sometimes most of the time actually new to this area. They don't know how to navigate this space. So I think as partners and collaborators in this industry, it's extremely important for us to refer clients to each other and to experts in the field as we weave that fabric, so that they can get the end-to-end care that they deserve. So that's one way I can see all of us doing a better job of is building that fabric and helping potential clients out and helping them navigate this space, because it is quite confusing and it can be very daunting of a task to learn, especially when you're new to it. I would say the other thing that we can do is, as a community as a whole in the space is, obviously we all understand customers are number one, clients come first, but also kind of showing that, that consistency, that reliability. I see that as an area of improvement as well, because we do definitely get a lot of clients from that are not happy with the services that they have been receiving in the past, and are looking for that, that quality bar, so to speak, to go higher.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's another area that I see opportunity for.
Okay, I get it. Let's now talk about how families can work better with caregivers for success. What can families do to set caregivers up for success?
Well, I'd say number one is let the professionals do what they're trained to do. So give them space to operate, and I'll tell you that from my personal experience, taking care of my dad, I was sort of like the helicopter son, monitoring, making sure he was being taken care of like I wanted him to be taken care of. But in very quickly, what I realized was that, caregiver is experienced and a professional has done this many times over.
Yeah.
To let them operate, and do their thing, if there's specific guardrails that a family member may have, it's wonderful. It's, It's great to impart that knowledge to the caregiver, but let them operate is number one. Number two, I can say that it can be a very stressful situation for families as they're now
Mm,
in the space and trying to get care started for their loved ones or for clients themselves. But believe in the system, believe in in the company you've chosen to provide that care, and allow them that the opportunity to uh, exceed your expectations, right? And if there's any concerns, fears, reach out to the owner like myself or the team
yep.
members that are involved, and let them kind of work through those concerns or those fears with you. It's like they say, right? It takes a village, right? And in this situation, it takes a team to make it happen. So, don't feel like you're doing this alone or in an isolated position.
Okay. Here's another related question. What should families not do when working with a caregiver?
What? Oh, and what should they not do? Well, they should not be doing stuff that the caregiver should be doing or is
Yeah.
there to do,
Like
right?
unrealistic expectations or last minute changes, things like that nature.
Yeah. So, when it comes to consistency, consistent schedules matter, right? And so having a repeatable pattern of when the caregiver is going to be out there helping mom or dad, for instance, um, you know, it, that regularity is extremely
Yeah.
important for the client themselves too, because at the end of the day, it's not only about building that relationship, that trust and respect with your caregiver. It's also about, you know, seniors in general do better with routines, and I would say that goes a lot, goes for all of us too. When we have a
Yeah.
routine on a day-to-day basis, it's extremely important. So have a routine in place, have a consistent schedule in place, versus changing it to one's, whims or desires, right? Things do come up once in a while, and we understand that, but longer term, it's important to have that. Um, the other thing that what not to do is, you know, when it comes to family members taking care of their loved ones, they may have a specific thing that or routine that they want, but what ends up happening is sometimes the parent themselves or the client that's receiving care may not want it that way. And
Mm,
so, have some flexibility, right? And we try to do that. What we try to do is we try to gauge our clients in understanding what they want, what they desire, and giving them some flexibility in the level of care that they receive. So that way they feel part of the process, not somebody that's just actually just receiving the care and has to abide by certain set of rules or requirements, right? So we want that independence. We want to encourage the client to have some free thought there in terms of what they want in as well.
mm. Have you ever had a situation where a caregiver wasn't the right fit? And what did you do to resolve it?
Yeah, we've run into that issue. Not too many times, but we have, and most comes down to personality fit
Mm,
with the client. The caregiver is obviously skilled, experienced in providing that level of care, but it sometimes comes down to personality. And like I said, right, there are certain different types of personalities, and if you have somebody that's like that one client that I gave an example of that was pretty introverted, etc. If we had sent somebody that was very introverted, then I doubt there would have been much progress. And of course, we didn't want to send somebody that was completely outgoing and very highly extroverted either. So you have to kind of read the room, understand, your client, what they're looking for, what their personality is like when you're doing the assessment, and try to match them with somebody that's similar to them. But again, like I said, there are times where we've had to change that. And what we look for is that feedback from the family, like what went on, what was the issue, and we correct it right away.
okay. What's your advice for families struggling with guilt about bringing in outside care?
Um, it's normal. I
Okay.
don't I obviously don't blame them for having that type of
Yeah.
guilt because, at the end of the day, we all feel like, hey, it's my parent or my grandparent or my loved one. And it's my duty to take care of them. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so in situations like that, that's normal. And the way to kind of process through that guilt is one needs to understand their limits, right? There's only so much we can do. And, people may have jobs, family obligations, things like that. And you kind of have to try to balance it all. And that's where we come into the pictures. We allow that individual, the family member to have that balance while we're taking care of their loved one. And so it's normal to go through the guilt process, but it takes a while to kind of get through that, right? And then you quickly realize that, oh my gosh, I don't have to take care of my loved one's personal care needs. For instance, there's a caregiver doing that. So now I have all this free time to be able to socialize and do the fun activities that I never had time to do with my,
Yeah.
my loved one, my father, mother, grandparent. And so that's where we eventually see, families taking a turn or when they see that and they're like, okay, now I can do other things that I was not able to do because I was just so busy with taking care of them the whole time.
Got it. Got it. Um, what's one thing most people don't know about home care? Any surprising facts or anything like that?
Um, well, I would say, a common misconception, like I said, when we began is understanding what home care is, right? It's not medical, right? We don't do anything invasive. Um, we don't do wound care, things like that. But when it comes to activities of daily living, that's where we kind of, come into the picture. So it's probably that's one area that I see is the big obstacle or the big hurdle to overcome.
Mhm. If you could change one thing about the senior care industry, what would it be?
Um, I would like to see more people go into this profession, right?
Mhm.
You know, uh, there's something called a silver tsunami. Every
Right.
day, roughly 11,000 people are turning 65. By 2030, most of the baby boomers are going to be over 70 years of age. Um,
Yeah.
and when you look at our healthcare system, the number of students, nursing students, medical assistants, CNAs, that are entering schools and going through that profession or through that education is not as high as it should be. And so, like I was saying, that with the top of the funnel may be very wide, but when it comes to skill set, experience, certifications, that's very very important. And so, I'd love to see a lot more people go into this profession, into the healthcare profession, because it will benefit, the industry at large. And one of the things that I do is I go out and educate a lot of people in terms of the benefits of going into this space. Whether it's caregiving, whether it's becoming an RN, PT, OT, etc. These are very, very important professions to go into, and I'd like to see more and more people go into.
Yeah. What's the most rewarding part of running a home care agency?
Well, I'd say the biggest part is coming home, realizing that you've helped at least one person out.
Mhm.
In my case, a few people every.
Mhm.
That's a very rewarding. Having a chance to sit down with a client of mine and hearing their stories, you know, um, and it's amazing what you learn and the experiences that they've gone through. It's very enlightening. And so that is very rewarding for me. I would say the other thing is, working with my team, not only my office team, but our caregivers as well. These are people that work really hard, are helping people out every day, every single day, day in and day out. And we have a very fun environment in the office, and when we're out there, we're smiling, we're cracking jokes, but because we are in an industry where people need help, and sometimes it does get challenging with different conditions that we see. But at the end of the day, we try to keep it light and we try to keep a smile on their faces and have a good time as well.
Yeah. I know you pivoted into the, senior living industry, obviously from tech, and you've done amazing things already. I mean, any other big goals that you have planned for what you're doing, for what you're doing with Assisting Hands?
Well, we're focusing on growing our presence in the Bay Area, and so we're growing and we're opening up new offices as we speak. Of course, that's for us. It's going to be, not only getting more offices open, but also working to make sure that we can learn and become even better. So, on a yearly basis, we have goals set up in terms of what we can do better from the previous year, whether it's client care, whether it's, operations within the team or with our employees, etc. It's very exciting, because we're kind of still in the early phases, if you want to call it that, in terms of growth, and we see a long journey ahead of us with a lot of open green field to go explore. So I'm very excited about.
Nice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received about caring for seniors?
Listen, I want to say listen effectively. We all have our opinions and thoughts and ideas, but they're weaving a story as they tell you about their situation, and their experiences and what they're looking for. And so you may think that you know what's best for them, but sometimes just listening makes a huge difference, because you learn a lot and you realize that what you may have in mind for them is completely different when you walk out the door and you're starting to implement that care plan.
Okay. Last question. Was there anything that I didn't ask you yet that I should have?
Oh, why? There, you had some really good questions in there. I appreciate it. I can't think of anything right now, unless you have that question off the table that you want to ask me.
Oh, what's one thing that most people don't even know about you?
Well, I was born and raised in Africa. A lot of people don't know that about. My dad was an expat, and so we spent time in different countries in the southern hemisphere around. Obviously moved out to the States when I was 12. Was a pre-med major in undergrad, wanted to become a doctor. So that was always on my mind. And, of course, this is kind of full circle for me when it comes to that, because even though I may not be a trained physician, just being in the healthcare field and helping people is tremendous and very gratifying.
Nice. Very nice. Wow, Jay, this has been an insightful and valuable conversation. Thank you, Jay, for sharing your expertise and giving families a behind-the-scenes look at how home care works and what they need to know before making decisions, and how your services are improving lives every day. Before we wrap up, how can families reach out to you if they have questions or want to explore home care options with your agency?
Sure. Thank you for that. The best way is you can look us up on Google, Assisting Hands Fremont. You can visit our website, which is www.assistinghandsfremont.com. So either way, and then of course listening to this broadcast, and I'm sure they'll they can reach out to you for contact information as well.
Perfect. And for those of you watching or listening, if your loved one is considering home care or selling their home as part of their senior transition, let's talk. I'm here to help you simplify the process and make it less overwhelming. Schedule a free consultation with me here by clicking on the Calendly link on the video description box on YouTube. Learn more about my services at www.simplifyseniortransitions.com. If you have a quick question, you could even DM me on Instagram at SoldByDale. Subscribe for more expert interviews and senior transition tips. And don't forget to like and share this episode with someone who needs it. Thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Jay, for being on. And I will see you on the next episode of the Simplify Senior Transition Podcast.